What's up guys, Chris here from Johnny Jigs, and I'm here to break down the Shimano Ocea Jigger for you guys in this video that we're putting head to head with the Accurate Valiant 500N, which seem to be the two most chosen reels for slow pitch jigging applications.
We're just a few guys decided to pursue our passion as we hit destination fishing spots in our local waters out of Pompano Beach, Florida. We want to fill you in on what we have learned along the way.
A lot of people come into the shop and get into the pickle of I want to get one or the other, which one do I get? And we've even brought it down to coin tosses for the angler to select, you know, which one. I particularly choose this Ocea Jigger reel to use, and I have both the 1500 and the 2000, and I'm just going to break down some of the features and benefits of the 2000 with you guys, and really just kind of be very honest and blunt, you know, about the benefits and the drawbacks, because there are drawbacks, you know, with this reel. I have the silver model, which is the 2017. They've made one newer model, which is the 2019. It's called the F Custom, that has a spool control lever and a really cool smoke gray color. However, when it comes to these Ocea Jiggers, as you may have found in years past and maybe as of late, they're not so easy to get here in the United States, and there are more shops carrying the 17 model of the Ocea Jigger 1500s and 2000s. So they have been more, these have been more accessible. You kind of got to go overseas to track down one of those F Customs. So once again, I use the Ocea Jigger, and I'm primarily, what drew me to them first after feeling it was the smoothness of the reel, you know, and I've talked to many anglers too who don't like the smoothness of the reel. They want a little bit of resistance. They want, we use the metaphor of the Boss Valiant, comparing it to an American muscle car, you know, whereas this Ocea Jigger feels like a Ferrari or a Porsche, you know, going smooth around a hairpin turn and holding tight. And that's what really drew me to the Ocea Jigger. This 2000 model, when you look at it online, there's going to be two options, and that is a 2000 narrow. They're all narrow, NR, and then there's a high gear and a power gear, an HG and a PG. And what I have here in my hands is the HG, and the HG is what I have chosen to use on both my 1500 and my 2000 models. One feature that the HG gives you is extra inches per crank. When you do one revolution of your handle around, you're going to get 46 inches per crank on an HG 2000. You will only get 38 inches on the PG. If you watch some YouTube videos, Japanese Angler Secrets, you know, they'll kind of break it down where the PG power gear is definitely for a guy that's really working slowly and in shallower water, where a high gear is going to give you the abilities to add a little bit more movement to the jig. That's well and good, but what I'm after is the 46 inches per crank. You know, if you hear anybody talking about slow pitch jigging and breaking down what are the important features to have in your tackle and your gear, inches per crank is one of those. You know, it gets you tight to your jig quicker after the jig hits the bottom. It also gives you more retrieve, you know, when you're pulling up a big fish and you're gaining on him, you know, you're gaining on him a little quicker and a little easier with the revolution of the handle. So I get the HG, which gives you the 46 inches per crank that the Shimano Ocea Jigger 2000 offers, and that's a great feature. It is a gear ratio of 6.2 to 1 for its spool size, and again, coupled with the 92 millimeter handle, which is about, I think I broke it down, and if I remember correctly, it's about 3.6 inches handle length. I know some of you are probably getting custom handles done and modifying your slow pitch jigging reels to have longer handles, and some companies like Accurate out there are manufacturing their reels to have longer handles. So that's, you know, an important feature too when you're just, there's a lot of work, you know, and action and energy going on while you're slow pitch jigging. You're actively fishing, you know, so having features like longer handles, greater inches per crank, you know, good gear ratio is gonna allow the gear to help work for you, you know, which is really key, especially if you've watched our videos and have been on long range offshore trips, you know, you're putting a lot of hours at the rail, you know, so any features and benefits you can take advantage of to make it a little bit easier on you will allow you to fish longer, you know. And I often compare this to long range backpacking, like hiking the Appalachian Trail, you know, and that game is all about shaving ounces. Which brings me to, you know, one of the drawbacks of the Ocea Jigger 2000. It's 21 ounces. It's definitely a heavier reel, and when you have one in your hand all day long, you will feel the weight of it, you know. I do have a 1500 that I usually match with a Power 2 medium rod, and it's really nice to transition down to that reel and rod and allow it to be just a lighter setup. And that like gives me the idea that I'm almost taking a break, you know, without stopping fishing, you know, when I get to phase down to a lighter setup. So it is 21 ounces, which is a little on the heavy side. However, once again, I you know, choose to use this because the benefits of the smoothness and the power and the inches per crank really outweigh the cost of the weight. And there's also an additional cost that I think the benefits outweigh. And it's a benefit as well, and that right here is the clutch. This lever right here opens the bail, and it's a star drag obviously here, but this lever opens the bail and allows you to pitch or drop your jig. And once your jig has hit the bottom, all you have to do, it has an auto engage, so a half a crank closes that clutch. Clutch open, up, we hit the bottom, half a crank closes the clutch. Really nice and really easy. I don't have to adjust the lever, I don't have to touch anything. My hand's already on the handle. All I gotta do is give the crank and I'm jigging. But I did say there's a drawback, and if you have one of these or used one of these, you probably know what I'm about to say, and that's when you cast your jig. And oftentimes, you know, casting is a quintessential part of being able to reach the bottom. If you're having a tough time reaching the bottom because you're offshore 200 foot of water, 300 foot of water, and you're having a difficult time actually tapping your jig on the bottom, you know, one way of logic is let me get a heavier jig and it'll get down there quicker. You know, let me phase down my line, and the line will have less drag against the current. Well, and another thing you can do is cast your jig, you know, further, you know, down current. So when it takes longer for the boat, you know, to reach that spot that your jig hit the water, and you got a better chance of being vertical a little longer the further your cast. Well, when you go to whip a good cast with this reel, clutch open and whip a good cast with this reel, just like that, if you're able to see that, this handle's so smooth, it'll spin around and close the clutch on you. One of two things is gonna happen. That jig's gonna come sailing back at your boat, at your buddies, at you, and you're gonna have to yell for or duck or get out of the way or do some weird rod movement to try to, you know, feng shui that jig where in a place where it doesn't hit the boat or hit somebody else. Or your knot's gonna break because there was a nick in your line, or you tied a poor knot, and you're gonna watch that jig sail off into the sunset. You know, raise your hand or hit maybe a comment if you want to be honest if that's happened to you, and it's definitely happened to me as well. You know, so I've conditioned myself to adapt to this particular reel because once again, I choose to use it because of the value and the benefits, you know, that it offers, and I adapt to the drawbacks. And that's when I have the clutch open, I'm ready to cast. I press my knuckles against the handle on the bottom of the reel right there, and then I can pretty much whip this thing as hard as I want. My knuckles are holding the handle in place, you know, and then I'm able to rock and roll when the jig hits the bottom. So.
What's up guys, Johnny Sedum here from Johnny Jigs. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about the Accurate Valiant 500N. This is my reel of choice for slow pitch jigging. This is the one that I've just grown to love, and it works well for me and what I like to do as far as slow pitch jigging goes. And what you'll notice is it's Accurate Valiant BV, so it's Boss Valiant 500N, which stands for narrow. And there's also one size bigger. You can get the 600 double end, which you'll get a bigger line capacity and could work for you for the deep drop as well. I actually stick with this one. I've done deep drop up to around 900 feet of water with the 500N and haven't had a problem hitting the bottom. So one thing about the 500N, when you first get it, you'll notice that it has these two it has a reel seat basically on the bottom, a saddle that goes around your reel seat. You could take these off by actually unscrewing them, or Accurate now has the new slow pitch jigging series, which has a few great components on it that I'm really liking, and I'll get it soon, as soon as we get it in our hands. But it has a nice handle on it, which you can grab. You get a great grip on the reel. And the reel handle, which is nice because this one will tend to bruise your hand after a little while of slow pitch jigging. So I think that that new handle is a great add-on for it, as well as an extension on the handle itself, which is also nice when it comes to slow pitch jigging. And then the other thing that they put on the new jigging edition of this is, or took away I should say, is the clicker that's on the reel. So there's no use for this clicker when it comes to slow pitch jigging, so for them to remove that was a great thing. And then also you'll notice on the new slow pitch jigging reel from Accurate is that these parts here are actually they don't come with it whatsoever. So whether you buy the 500N or you get the new jigging one, the holder's still there. If you like to put this saddle onto your reel seat, you can obviously add these things in later to the new one. But for the 500N that I've been using for quite some time now, somewhere around 3 years now, I just unscrew these things, I take them off, and that gives me the ability to change my reel out quickly from one rod to the other if I wanted to. So let's dig into the nuts and bolts of this reel. So it comes in at 15 ounces. That's a light reel, so that's definitely a plus side for this reel. When it comes to weight on your reel and slow pitch jigging, you know, you're gonna want stuff that's light because you're doing the same motion over and over and it can become tiresome. So coming in at 15 ounces is actually a great thing for this. I believe the new Valiant is actually 1 ounce more due to the size of the handle that's on it. So one thing that you're really looking for in slow pitch jigging is line retrieval. So a lot of guys that are into SPJ, been at it for a while, will say that you want something that has 36 inches and plus. So this reel coming in at 6:1 gear ratio will give you 45 inches per crank. That's a lot of line. I mean, we're talking about, you know, that's a lot. For one turn of the handle, that's an extreme amount of line retrieval. It's more than enough for what you need for slow pitch jigging, as well as bringing a fish into the boat. So another feature about this reel that I'd like to talk to you about is the fact that it's lever drag. And that's really what sells me on the Accurate Valiant, is the lever drag itself. It has a twin drag and it's a lever. And if you look here, there's a strike white line here, as well as there's a full right there. And what that is whenever I get into strike, right there, you'll hear a little click when it gets into there. Let's see if you could hear it. Okay, I'm sure you heard that. If not, I'll add a sound effect for you later. But when you get into that little click right there, that is my sweet spot. I know that I'm within about 12 to 14 pounds of drag right there in that sweet spot right there, and I know that that's where I want to be, or as close to that spot as possible when fighting a fish as well as when jigging. And then once I go past that, which I do, and I give it little bumps just past it, I rarely do I go into the full strike position, but I give it just a few little bumps past that sweet spot that I had preset on my reel, then I know that I'm in the red zone. I know that I'm putting heat on the fish, and I know that there's potential for some type of failure once I go past that sweet spot. But I've tested that pound breakage, and I've fought many big fish right in that sweet spot there, landed them, so I know if I stay right in there, I'm good to go. Now granted, if you got a big grouper that's digging you down into the rocks, you could feel them just getting down, about to get into the reef or whatever the case may be. Obviously for the first portion of your fight, you can go ahead, you could throw a little more heat on them, get them up out of there, and then get back into that sweet spot. And I know exactly where I'm at on my drag at all times. And that's the plus side between a lever drag and a star drag. When it comes to the star drag, so you start clicking that star drag and you don't really know where you're at, versus on the lever drag, I have basically a gauge here telling me right where I'm at all the time. And that's a plus side for me for this reel. Hooked up, baby! So you can get this reel in a left-hand option. You may have to special order it. A lot of stores won't stock it all the time. But one great thing about Valiant is they're made in the USA, therefore they're accessible. There's a lot of stores that have them, including you can find them here at johnnyjigs.com online, or come into our store, into our showroom, and check them out in person here. So just the accessibility of them is what makes them great, and the ability to get them repaired. And a lot of times if you have a dealer in your area, there's a repair guy that can repair them, that's an authorized Accurate service, repair guy that could take care of it.
What's up, guys? Hey, it's Will here at Johnny Jigs. We're going over the Accurate Valiant 500 Narrow versus the Ocea Jigger 2000. So a couple comparisons here. On the Accurate, which is a great reel, we have 15 ounces on the weight of the reel, inches per crank, 45 inches. We have a max drag of 30 pounds, and the gear ratio is 6:1. Okay, and then when we're comparing the Ocea Jigger 2000, we're looking at a 20 ounce weight on the reel, 46 inches per crank, 22 pounds of drag, and a 6:1 ratio. So when we're looking at the weight of the reels, we have a little bit of significant weight difference. We have 15 ounces versus 20 ounces. Now when we're talking inches per crank, we have 45 versus 46, really nothing there. Max drag on the Accurate, 30 pounds versus 22 pounds. Personally, I don't think this will come into play for the type of fishing that we do. Most reels are going to have adequate drag for us to use in our slow pitch jigging. When it comes to the gear ratio, 6:1, 6:1, virtually the same. So I think it comes down to a personal choice and a question of, does the extra 5 ounces of weight make a difference to you? So I guess the final answer is, if you can't decide, my opinion would be buy them both. You won't regret it.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You could also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and jig on.